night, what a night. Oh gosh, what a night. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms, dancing to a reggae song. Feel good, feel good. I feel good, cause your perfume is...
Dagmar, say beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. The only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to Goal Diggin with Dagmar, and I'm your host, Dagmar II. Your Carolina's agent unlocking the home of your dreams. I am an award-winning realtor servicing Charlotte, North Carolina and surrounding areas. You can find me on Facebook as Dagmar II Realtor, on Instagram as Your Carolina's Agent, and on the web at yourcarolinasagent.com. Before we begin with today's show, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Lightwalker Photography. Lightwalker Photography is owned and operated by Norman Walker. Norman is a creative, multi-published photographer located in Charlotte, North Carolina, specializing in beauty, fashion, and maternity portraits. Book your next breathtaking photo shoot at lightwalkerphotography.com. Today, we will be discussing the topic of self-perception with my guest, my colleague, and most importantly, my friend, Ray Addison II. Ray has spent more than a decade in a variety of marketing and strategy disciplines, including product strategy and marketing communications for billion-dollar automotive brands. Ray led product marketing and development activities for Mercedes-Benz USA. During his time there, he managed the exclusive brands of SLR and Mercedes-Benz AMG. Ray then transitioned to Daimler Trucks North America, where he led communication efforts for the aftermarket business unit. While at DTNA, he worked directly with the Daimler AG Board of Management to transform corporate culture for the global enterprise. The result was a corporate strategy that prepared the organization for the next era of mobility. Ray serves on the Digital Marketing Advisory Council for George Washington University. He serves on the Board of Directors for Sustain Charlotte and is also a member of Leadership Charlotte, where he and I met. After an accomplished corporate career, Ray committed his time to entrepreneurial ventures. Ray is currently focusing his efforts on sustainability, electrification, and the future of mobility. He is a founding team member for GoStation and currently serves as the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. GoStation is deploying electric vehicle charging solutions across the United States for public use and organizations that are transitioning to electrification. Let's welcome Ray to Goal Diggin with Dagmar. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to have you here. You know, before we get into the topic of self-perception, I would love to hear more about yourself and what you're working on.
Thank you. You gave an incredible introduction. I won't belabor too many of the points, but I am a family man, father of two, happily married here in Charlotte. And I've really been focusing my efforts not on what I do, but why I do it. Mm-hmm. And when I made the transition from corporate America and really just kind of jumped into all my entrepreneurial efforts, I wanted to have my kids talk about their dad in terms of what he did, not what he does. And there's a distinct difference there. Mm-hmm. So it was really about executing with purpose and just following a mission so that I have a bit more of a legacy with things and can make my kids proud of me other than just stuff. So beyond what I do in terms of my entrepreneurial stuff, which is a bit varied, real estate, cryptocurrency assets, e-mobility, you name it. I've been living by a motto where I want to do cool and interesting things with cool and interesting people. Mm-hmm. So I consult a lot of companies. I advise a lot of companies. I've invested in a ton of companies. And I just really love learning, love working with people that have vision and just want to make impact because this is just an extraordinary time to do it.
Okay, that's amazing. And definitely you're doing a lot of cool things. You are. I'm going to talk about self-perception. And the most important relationship is the one that we have with ourselves. And self-perception is how we view ourselves. Our self-perception can influence our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Sal Khan once said, one's perception of themselves has much bigger role than has been acknowledged to determine who succeeds and who does not. Just hearing about your successes, I'm led to believe that self-perception may have played a role in your accomplishments, and I look forward to diving into this topic with you. The reason I'm excited to have you here is that you and I have had thought-provoking discussions, ranging from hip-hop to real estate to confidence. And I would just love to hear your thoughts on self-perception and if you believe that it lends to success, and how so.
Absolutely. I think self-perception is the core of everything in terms of what you're capable of doing in life. What you think of yourself and what you think is possible will guide your path. I think that we all need to walk on a journey where we think we can accomplish everything and anything. But in that, we have to have a real understanding and expectation of what our shortcomings are. So there's a balance there, right?
Okay.
So believe in your greatness, but without acknowledging some of the things that you need to do to be great, you'll never achieve it.
That makes
So
sense.
seeing yourself as a king, as a queen, as a vice president, as a president, whatever your goals may be, that's critical. But knowing what you do well and what may need some improvement is going to be critical to get you there. And I think as we talk about self-perception, it's good to have that awareness and understanding of self. And I think you get there by also having a trusted tribe around you.
Okay.
Because they can in a safe, constructive and a productive way support you and give you that honest and critical feedback to help advance you. So it's a multifaceted question with multiple facets in it to get you to where I think success wherever lies for that particular person.
Okay, good answer. So, people with positive self-perception tend to move through the world believing, that they're smart and they're capable. And I think that they're effectively much more capable of dealing with challenges and setbacks. What changes have you undergone over the course of your life or years that you thought would be impossible?
You read articles and you see things on Instagram and they talk about the journey to success, and it's not an elevator. Their valleys and their peaks. And early on in my career, I had nothing but successes. So I did not know what it meant to fail. Any job opportunity I went after, I got. Anything that I applied for, it was mine.
Wow.
The biggest challenge that I had was leaning into failure, recognizing that maybe I wasn't trying hard enough or reaching far enough because things were coming relatively easy, but also recognizing that there will be, and there were many points in time where I did fail, and I failed massively, famously in some cases. Real estate, I've had some substantial highs and some really significant lows, lost tons of money. And at those moments, I did not know how to navigate that. And the learning in all that was, in believing in myself and having this positive self-perception, I realized that it was a bit unhealthy because it was propped up by ego.
Okay.
Which we need to be mindful of.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when you think you are too good, you'll be quickly reminded that you're not. Because in that lane of ego, you'll start thinking that you're too smart to ask questions, and that you think that failure is just something that won't touch you, and it does. So just having the fortitude to navigate the tumultuous waters that anyone is going to experience in life, whether it's in business or personally. You just have to be mindful of that. And I'd say that was a significant setback for me. First, some bumps and bruises on the real estate side. Several bumps and bruises on the real estate side, and recovering from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so you said ego.
Yes.
Right? And you said failure.
Yes.
And confidence.
Yes.
What somebody say, cockiness. So you have this ego. I don't want to say, this larger than life ego, but you definitely win after win after win. So when you experience this failure, did that demotivate you?
It did. It demotivated me. And what was worse, I tried to hide my failures. You know what I mean? So when you talk about self-perception, part of it is built off of what you think people think of you.
Yes, absolutely.
So you wind up constructing this avatar that, you give off all the impressions and optics of success. But in those moments, you're not. And I found myself trying to live up to this illusion that I didn't have to. And that was fueled by ego. And through meditation and just some soul searching, I realized that the path to getting through those moments of failure, I needed to break down ego, have a sense of self-awareness, and really lean into some insecurities and ask questions and seek input and realize that no one really cares what I'm doing or how well I'm doing it. I need to focus on me and just do what I got to do. And if I fail, use it as a learning opportunity for myself and for others and keep pushing.
Great. And that came through introspection. You also mentioned earlier that it is very important to have a tribe around you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you receive any feedback from them to cause you to dig deeper into yourself?
Yes. My partner and my wife, she's instrumental in giving me feedback on how I'm doing, and she uplifts me in moments when I'm down, and she gives me straight and honest feedback when I need it. And her guidance has been instrumental in my growth. My father has been instrumental to me in terms of, helping me work through some of my challenges. And it's interesting because sometimes you have to challenge people to give you the hard feedback, because like parents, loved ones, and they think the world of you, and they think that they're helping you by telling you all these wonderful things about yourself and etc. But it's got to be like, all right, thank you, but please give me the less than glowing feedback. Okay. So it was the honest feedback from parents, from friends, from my wife that helped me navigate through some challenges and have me start looking inward. And then also I would say just taking a moment and realizing that there were some areas of my life where there wasn't the fulfillment that I knew could be there.
Okay.
And I recognized that there was some of my relationships had blocks, so there was just things weren't flowing well. And when you find points of friction, I think those are the points in time where people should be still and just take a moment, stop doing, and just reflect on the energy that's in the space. And I look at the relationships that I had with my kids, with my stepdaughter, and just said, hey, what's going on here? And really trying to take a step back and look at the situation instead of being in it to find opportunities to improve it. And in that, you start going through this cycle of self-awareness and reflection.
Okay. So I'm hearing that self-awareness and reflection definitely lend to evolving your self-perception or structuring your self-perception. And then that leads to success.
Yes,
or can lead to
it can. I think it's the first step, right?
Okay.
So after you go through the process of self-reflection, and it's the biggest step to take, then you got to do the work. You know what I mean? So you don't just wake up one day and have this, miraculously know who you are and where you fit in and what you do well and what you don't, and have this complete and holistic perception of yourself. It was me identifying that, going through that process of awareness and figuring out who I was, and then seeking help, through books, through therapy, to start to initiate that process of growth that would ultimately get to the point of success as I defined it for myself.
You defined it.
And it wasn't about getting a position. It wasn't about getting a car. It wasn't about any of those things. It was really about what I wanted to do or what I needed to do to become the person that I wanted to be. And after having walked that journey, everything else came to me, like the cars, like all that extra stuff comes along with it. But I found that the true benefit of the work and the journey was the evolved person that I became.
Okay, that's great. So researchers show that, we think about more than 50,000 thoughts per day, and half of that is negative.
Yep.
How do you combat that? So you've done this this introspection, the self-reflection. You identified the points, in your personality, your ego that needed to be worked on. How do you keep that from creeping back in?
They always creep back in.
Okay.
And you just have to be aware of your triggers. And quite honestly, I knew one of my triggers was social media.
Really?
Scrolling through Instagram and seeing all the wonderful things that people in my circle were doing, and why am I not doing that? And it puts you down this path of, for me, being competitive about the wrong things, not having a sense of gratitude for all that I have, because it quickly turned into, I don't have enough, I want more.
The comparison is a thief of joy. Exactly.
Or thinking that, my life hasn't been fulfilled because I haven't done some of these things. So recognizing my triggers, and when I feel myself resorting back to my old patterns and paradigms of doing things, I would just be still in that moment, have a point of meditation to say, what's happening here. You feel your body going to this place of negativity. You see it. Don't go there.
Okay.
So you slow, it never goes away, but you start to develop the tools and the temperament to not go down that road.
Okay.
But those signs will always be there, and you'll be tempted to veer right. But it's after, it's like going to the gym. It's after you keep coaching and conditioning yourself, you become more aware of what your triggers are and steer clear of them. So I stay off of social media unless it's enriching content. I stay away from, negative conversations and just the obvious programming that we are all subject to that has us flowing down those paths of competitiveness and ultimately lack of gratitude.
Oh, that's awesome. That's why I like talking to you. Ray Addison II and I have been talking about how self-perception relates to success. Negative self-perception is often driven by how we believe others are perceiving us. You can be very goal-oriented and motivated, but sometimes self-doubt creeps in. And you and I touched upon that earlier.
So, when we talk about self-perception, I have to acknowledge that as a person of color, there's an extra dynamic to it. And I'm sure you can relate to this as a Black woman, being in some of the rooms that we're in, and we're kind of like one of none, like it's only us in that room. I think, in our upbringing, we've been taught to be the smartest, the fastest. We've got to be better than everyone else. And when we're in those rooms, even if we don't know what we're doing, we kind of have this fake it till you make it.
Absolutely.
And it's always a challenge because we think that people are perceiving us as less than. So we have to put on additional armor to be more than. So we constantly contend with what we think of ourselves. And I think because we are people of color in certain environments, we're cognizant of what people think of us. And then we have to deal with our insecurities at the same time. So it's really, really hard in the dynamic. And I find it hard for me in some of my situations. And I'm curious to know, have you or can you relate to anything similar?
Absolutely. And, I used to call it imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Until I had a discussion with someone, and he made me realize, or he explained to me, that imposter syndrome was made up.
Really?
And it is a tool of actually white supremacy to make us feel like we are not worthy of being in that room. So we don't have imposter syndrome. We are actually worthy. We are actually talented. We actually deserve to be in that room. So once I had the discussion with him, and I have really good friends. My tribe really speaks life into me. So once I had that conversation with him, I've changed my perception of things.
How so?
So I used to go into meetings, or I used to, even working as a senior project manager, I used to feel like I don't know enough. Yeah, I have the accolades. I have the degree. I have the certification. I even have the experience. But for some reason, everyone in there knows more than me.
Right.
But they don't.
Right.
And it's not until I had that conversation with him that it just changed my mindset. And I do struggle with this sometimes, like, okay, no, but there's also someone that's always going to know more than
right.
you. There's someone that's going to be better than us, but not everybody in the room.
Yeah. I feel you on that. I had a similar experience, and I always felt as though I had to be the most prepared. So I'm the one that's doing a lot of research and preparing myself for everything to the point where I was like, it was like fanatical. Like I would just like over prepare to just ridiculous extents that it just wasn't helpful. But then understanding all that you mentioned about imposter syndrome, I now walk into meetings saying, I don't know it all, but I'm smart enough to go figure it out.
Oh, that's a good one too.
So instead of having this, just being compelled to know the answer before someone asks me, I now have the courage to say, I don't have the answer to that one. I've got a couple of good ideas, but I'll get back to you with a good solution for that. And I feel confident and comfortable standing in that truth because I've rested myself on the fact that I'm smart enough to figure it out, and I don't have to drive myself crazy coming to this meeting thinking I should have the answer for everything.
And it's funny you say that because I'm a self-proclaimed introvert, so I don't like to speak unless I am absolutely sure that my answer is correct. I don't know if it's being an introvert or it could be ego,
right?
Because I want to look competent. I want to be competent. I want you to look at me as, she's a subject matter expert.
Right.
So I'm not going to open my mouth unless I am 100% sure that what I'm saying is correct.
Yeah. That's risky because even if you're not correct, the courageous conversations and the provocative questions actually help the room figure something out. So it's not always up to us to have the answer. It's for us to ask the question. Right. So I'm glad that, folks are stepping out on courage to ask those questions. And I'm hoping you're doing the same in those rooms.
I am, because definitely it was ego. It was, I blamed it all these years. Like, I'm an introvert, I'm not going to talk. But there are some questions that I've asked, recently in meetings and such. And it's like, oh, wow, we were thinking the same thing. Or it developed a new process or a new procedure because of the question that I asked. So I'm getting more confident in being comfortable with asking those questions. But the conversation that I had regarding imposter syndrome, honestly, really changed my perception of things. Yeah. So what do you teach your children? What are you teaching them about the whole self-perception
I think idea? So my wife and I do our best to expose our kids to the harsh realities of the world. The game, to a certain degree, is rigged, and I do believe that as you build your perception of self, there are people who are aware that you are, and they're weaponizing certain things because they're intentionally trying to steal your joy and steal your self-worth. Some of it's intentional because they want to tear you down, but on the other side of it, they have doubts about who they are.
Absolutely.
And they see elements of you that they want. And they don't know how to contend with that. So they come after you in what seem like vicious and odd ways. So we have more conversations in our household about knowledge of self and just uplifting yourself more so than academics and all that other stuff.
Absolutely.
Because that's important. But if you have the strength and the knowledge of who you are, and all the other stuff will get figured out. I think the hardest challenge is to have the kids step outside the programming of what we see in social media and being too concerned about what other people think of them. So it's stop caring what people think and stop thinking that they care.
It's been great having you here with me today. And as always, our talks are always thought-provoking. On a lighter note, what's one thing that people are genuinely surprised to find out about you?
Oof. That is a stumper.
Like you skateboard.
I don't know. What would you say? When you and I have developed a relationship over some time now, is there anything that you learned about me? I was like,
you like hip hop. You knew some hip hop stuff and I'm diehard hip hop fan. And there are some things I know when we had the family over. You're talking, I didn't know these people.
Don't let the pocket square fool you. I like music, so you were surprised at my love of hip hop. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Anything else? Has anyone else told you?
I've been told some things that may not be appropriate for this, family focused show here, but I enjoy life, right?
Okay,
so I've done a lot of things, from racing cars to
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's I've had a lot of fun. So I would say that some of my experiences in my past few years, folks are like, oh, you've done that? So yeah.
Okay, good. Are there any other projects that you're working on now? And tell us some more about Go Station as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. So Go Station, as you mentioned, is focused on e-mobility. We're deploying a network of electric vehicle charging stations coast to coast. We are at the forefront of, in my opinion, of charging electric vehicles and just looking at alternatively fueled infrastructure. And we're spending a lot of our time now serving underserved communities. So we actually just deployed a charging station on the historic West End of Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
And what I like about it is that it's a community that has been disproportionately impacted by climate change. It's surrounded by 3 highways. It's got zoning laws that allow companies that emit a lot of pollution in that area.
Okay.
And you don't see that in other parts of Charlotte. So it's a shining example of the climate and socioeconomic divide. So by putting this charging station there, we impact climate change as more EVs hit the market. But more importantly, the charging station is located by a Black-owned coffee shop and bookstore called Archive. So our charging station and mobile app actually allows people to get discounts and promotions for that location. So we're driving people literally and figuratively to that location and actually pushing them into the store to buy her goods and services. So it allows us to, keep dollars in the community. And we're really thrilled about that.
That is great. That's great.
A lot of exciting stuff there.
Yes, that is exciting. So other than that, are you working on anything else, or this is just your main focus?
That takes 80% of my time. Other than that, I'm doing a lot of work on NFTs and cryptocurrency assets. I'm actually starting another company that's focused on NFTs primarily in the creative space. So using the blockchain as a means to make sure that creatives like yourself get compensated for their work through royalty systems that are all programmed into the blockchain. And I'll quote Steve Stout, who is a famous executive in the hip hop space. What the internet meant for information, NFTs will mean for ownership. Oh, wow. So it's really, really powerful. And we're in the beginning days of it. So I'm excited about that project. We're actually going to be deploying, our beta marketplace and solution in the next 30 days. So yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So how can people get in touch with you? How can they stay up to date on the projects that you're working on?
Find me on Twitter at @RayAddison_2. And I'm out there talking about what I'm working on and engaging with folks. So by all means,
the number 2?
The number 2.
Okay, great. Positive self-perception is an intentional learned behavior. Recognize when negative thoughts are creeping in and repeat a mantra to remind yourself of your purpose and confidence. I leave you with these words by Roger Berkman to start your week. The reality of life is that your perceptions, right or wrong, influence everything else you do. When you get a proper perspective of your perceptions, you may be surprised how many other things fall into place. Thank you for tuning in to Goal Diggin with Dagmar on WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Continue to tune in every Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Also, if you want to be a guest on the show or want to learn more about advertising and sponsorship opportunities, email me at media@goaldigginradio.com. You've been listening to Goal Diggin with Dagmar, and I'm your host, Dagmar Damour, your Carolina's agent unlocking the home of your dreams on WDRB Media, the voice of the community, for double the information and inspiration. Until we speak next week.
Whoa, what a night. What a night, what a night. Oh gosh, what a night. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms.